Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for your yeah, hello. Hello everyone, and so wonderful to see so many of you joining us live today. And welcome to episode 3 of the Vietnam Tech Gateway series with the topic Vietnam Tech Talent Landscape 2025, Hiring and Scaling Smart. So I think before we get started, I would like to warm up a bit. Can you leave your message in the box chat? Where are you joining from now? Let me see. So where are you joining from now? Hello from Hanoi. Yeah, hello. Yeah, France. Oh, Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah. Frankfurt. Yes, from Hanoi. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for your reply and your response. And so I think we can up someone to you. I'm sure that we have someone from Korea too, Junhee. And so I think, all right, once again, I'm Hazel, Global Strategic Account Manager at Manet. I'm so excited to be your host for today. And we are thrilled to guide you through insights, data, and real-world stories about hiring and scaling engineering team in Vietnam. And you know, Vietnam is one of the fastest rising tech hubs in Asia. And today's topic is something I'm sure that many of you have been asking for: the trusted data, realistic benchmarks, and practical framework for building tech team in Vietnam. And whether you are a CDO, the HR director, the technical leader, and this session is designed for you with your challenges and opportunities in mind. And to bring this topic to life, I'm joined by two speakers who spend decades working with global companies. So let me quickly. Yeah. So let me quickly introduce our expert today. And first, we have Mr. Andre, the Deputy CEO of TalentNet Corporation, with over 20 years leading HR service and recruitment across Southeast Asia. And he brings deep expertise in Vietnam's labor market, workforce planning, and talent strategy, and helping global business navigating their hiring complexity effectively. And original, we are also expecting Mr. Attila to join us live today, but due to his health condition, Attila is not able to join our webinar, and so we wish him a smooth and speedy recovery and get well soon. Fortunately, we have another unsung hero stepping in, someone who brings strong technical leadership and first-hand experience working with global engineering teams. And joining us today is Mr. Hiole, technical leaders at LTF Group, a senior software architect and global delivery expert with over 10 years driving large-scale software projects across US, Europe, Japan, and APAC. And he specialized in system architecture, solution design, and guiding engineering teams in cross-border working environments. And rounding our conversation, and I'll be sharing their hands-on experience from Manet in connecting global businesses with the Vietnam tech talent. And so before we get started, I'd love to invite each of you have a quick introduction about yourself and share one thing you are most excited to discuss today. So Andrea, can you turn on? Sorry, Andre, can you turn on your camera and share your thought with the audience?
Thanks, Hazel. I hope you can see me. My camera is already on. I hope
yeah, I can see you.
Can see me. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I think you already perfectly introduced myself. I say quite often I'm half Asian since I lived half of my life in Southeast Asia, but originally I'm from Germany. So I saw someone is right now in Frankfurt. So maybe that's a German person. So greetings back to my home country, Germany. Briefly, as you shared already, I would say my background is really in HR services. Mainly, I would say mid to senior recruitment, but as well in payroll, outsourcing, staffing. So these are the business units or businesses I have been overseeing. 20 plus years. Yes, I have been living in Southeast Asia. So then you can roughly tell what's my age, since I said I'm half of my life in Southeast Asia. I only worked for Unilever in Germany. I was a management trainee in Hamburg. So that's my only working experience really in kind of Europe. And maybe last but not least, you asked me what I'm especially excited about to speak about. I think all the topics we cover today I'm very passionate about, but maybe most of the times I most likely speak about mid to senior recruitment for Vietnam right now, but as well for Southeast Asia. So I've been living in Vietnam now 10 years. I've been living in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. So yeah, that's I think the most excited topics I like to speak about today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andre, for your introduction. And so I think over to Hill. Could you share a bit about your background and what is your one thing you want to share with the audience today?
Hi everyone. Can you guys see me and hear me well? Yeah. So a little bit about myself, except for the word that you can see on the screen. I've been in this business for more than a decade, and I studied abroad. I'm Vietnamese, but I studied abroad in the Netherlands, and I spent a few years overseas to work at several companies, including a product company and outsourcing company. And then back then I decided I want to go back to help the countries. So I go back to Vietnam. So you can say that I have both experience working with an offshore company on-site and off-site in Vietnam. So I'm specialized in architecture design. At the moment, I'm the technical leader in LTS Group. It's an honor to be here today to talk about what I know, to share experience about the thing that you might want to hear and to know. So yeah, excited about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your sharing and also your story. And I think that and right and we have to meet our brilliant speaker. And I think right now I could have a quick walk through what is coming up today. And yeah, and in the next 60 minutes, and we will go through 4 focus sessions. The first one, an overview of Vietnam's labor and hiring landscape, Vietnam Tech Talent Landscape 2025. And the second one, hiring and scaling smart. What truly works for global teams navigating Vietnam's unique hiring challenges and opportunities. And the third one, the 5-step framework to hire Vietnam tech talent effectively. And we also share a clear roadmap from recruiting to onboarding and retention. And finally, our live panel and Q&A session about the culture, the performance, and the scaling cross-border teams. And in this part, and our expert will discuss the best practice and to preach the East-West working style. And we will try to keep our content sharp and relevant and just the insight you need to make your informed decision for your business later. Yes, so right now, yes, and now let's kick things off with our first big question. How ready is Vietnam for real adoption of its tech talent potential in 2025? And we often hear about the promise, the growth potential, but true readiness beyond headlines. And it means that the policy, the infrastructure, and most importantly, the people are aligned and equipped to deliver at scale and with quality. And today we explore how Vietnam is positioned on this front to meet global demand for technical talent. And till I set the stage, I will hand over to Andre to share an overview of Vietnam labor market and hiring trend. So Andre, can you start?
Yes, Hazel, happy to take over. Let's go to the next slide if we can.
Yes.
So as Hazel mentioned, I will give a little bit of a big picture overview, but at the same time, I will do my best to keep it sharp and relevant. So I have included quite a bit of numbers and data so that all of you have some good takeaways. But I will as well, since I understand the audience is global, so I will as well speak a little bit about generally Vietnam first, which might be not fully relevant to our Vietnamese audience, but let's see, maybe there as well some new information they haven't seen yet. But then I will tailor it back to the Vietnamese labor market. We have done some surveys. I will share the survey results. And then I will, at the end, summarize things and hand it over to the next guest speaker to maybe go more into the tech space. So let's go immediately to the next slide and we can kick it off. So a little bit about Vietnam. So you can see Vietnam has really developed into an economic powerhouse. So this is 2024 data, but I highlight already what we see for 2025. So in terms of GDP growth, last year we had maybe 7%. This year we foresee 8%, and the government has set ambitious targets to grow the next couple of years always around 10%. So you can see we are right now at the right place to be. It's a fast-growing market, strong GDP growth, and as you can see as well, it's attracting, which I put there on the right side, a lot of FDI. So Vietnam is really an FDI magnet, and I will show in a moment, we don't need to go there yet, as well where all this FDI is coming from. In terms of strategic location, Vietnam has a very attractive location there, because it's really part of the China Plus One strategy. So, which means basically companies who have already the manufacturing facilities in China really like to diversify the manufacturing. And one of the main countries that went to was Vietnam, and has been and will continue to be. So you can see as a next spot there, Vietnam is really a manufacturing hub, but it wants to develop as well into a financial hub. But it has really, over the last few years, attracted a lot of support for the manufacturing side. In digital transformation, I think Vietnam really leapfrogged a number of steps. For example, one of the weaknesses you see right now in countries like, or in parts like Europe, for example, my own home country, they're a little bit behind these trends. And it's amazing to see what Vietnam has established in terms of, or achieved in terms of digital transformation. And e-commerce is really booming in Vietnam. You can see the players like Shopee and so on that do tremendously well. I think it's as well thanks to a very young population we're having in Vietnam. Another one very positive. The only painful part of it is the tourism recovery. The only painful part of it is when you arrive in Ho Chi Minh City, especially at the airport, you always see very long queues. So I've been just traveling to Europe. I came back from as well the Netherlands, and I saw, wow, this is a long queue here again in Ho Chi Minh City, because a lot of tourists coming to Vietnam, which is great. And of course, Vietnam is building a new airport, rightly so. It should definitely do, which should maybe be ready next year or latest in 2 years. So you can see again, that shows how attractive Vietnam is now becoming globally. Population has a really good size, 100+ millions. Average salary, I will give you some more salary details in a moment, is considered rather low. That makes it on the one side very attractive. But you will see as well, it has gotten up, especially for white-collar professionals, which makes it, again, I think it develops in the right direction, because the buying power, paying power of the so-called middle class in Vietnam is getting stronger and stronger. And that again makes it an attractive location for companies to invest. Unemployment is basically not existing in Vietnam. Yes, it's maybe 2.2, but it's basically not existing. And Vietnam really invests into green manufacturing, which is really positive to see. Again, solar, wind energy, renewable energies in general, and a push for ESG, which is, again, have leapfrogged a number of steps already, so which is great to see. Good. Hopefully this gives you, especially our global audience, a very good idea. There are challenges, we will talk about them, but I think overall Vietnam is right now one of the places to be. So I'm personally very happy to be here. I made the right choice. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, very briefly, we spoke about FDI investment just to show a lot of FDI actually comes from Asia, which is very interesting to see. Singapore, we should take a little bit with a pinch of salt, because Singapore is mainly via investment funds. But I wanted to show this so you can see a lot of investment actually comes from Asia. But we should not forget that the US and Europe are very important trading partners for Vietnam. So both has their advantages for in Vietnam. So just wanted to give this overview. You can see. So let's go to the next slide. Here, this may be interesting as well. Where is the FDI investment going? So a lot, that's what I mentioned before, is going to the manufacturing space, because Vietnam is still right now considered as one of the manufacturing hubs in the region, if not globally. But you see as well investments going in other sectors, including the technology space, real estate, and so on. But just to give you an idea where a lot of these investments have been going to. Let's go to the next slide. So just to give you an idea as well, what locations. So if you're looking for investments in Vietnam, yes, both slides are totally fine. You can see that the two powerhouses are the south and the north. They normally attract most of the investments, or the middle around Da Nang, especially for technology players. You see a number of players are as well in Da Nang area. Otherwise, you have seen the last few years, a lot of investment either go into the Ho Chi Minh City, Bình Nhưỡng area, or the north around Hanoi, Bắc Ninh, Quang Ninh, or Haiphong. So these are the areas where we see most of the investment. Let's go to the next slide. There you can see it on the map. I don't want to repeat this, so we just skip this and go to the next one. Okay, here maybe just to share what investments coming to Vietnam. It's a lot in the, I call it high-tech, technology, industrial space. So 3 of the major investments in 2024 were Samsung Display, Amco Technology, and LG Display. Each of them invested more, or at least $1 billion into Vietnam. And you can see the locations where Haiphong, Bắc Ninh, and as well Bắc Ninh, right? Yeah, all were actually this time in the north. But surely the south has gotten Bình Nhưỡng area, with the players of Lego and so on, has seen massive investments too. Okay, now let's move to the labor market. First of all, just a snapshot. So the labor force participation rate is very high in Vietnam. I think that is thanks to the to the rather young population of Vietnam. So it's 68%. Unemployment rate I already mentioned. Average monthly salary I mentioned too. And you can see what industries they're working: manufacturing, agriculture, and definitely as well including the ICT space. One important factor is you will see that the capabilities or skill sets are much stronger in the bigger cities or the urban areas, north and south and Da Nang, than in the rural areas. And of course, there you see as well the big, huge salary differences. And I will show some examples in a moment, because an average salary, yes, as I mentioned, $300, $400, but in reality, the salaries of white-collar professionals can be much higher. Let's go to the next slide. Here, just briefly, what I mentioned, population very, very young. 24% already Gen Z, and the majority of population right now are Gen Y. Baby boomers is kind of basically phased out, and Gen X will be step-by-step phased out too. What does this mean to companies is you can see on the right side that the younger generation tend not to stay too long. I don't want to call them job hoppers, but you can definitely see a certain trend there. And at the same time, they expect to be promoted faster. So as an organization, you need to find solutions to this. How can you retain your people? How can you either build in faster promotions, or how can you communicate and convince people that they have to wait a certain time to be ready for the promotion? So these are some of the challenges we see in Vietnam. Not only in Vietnam, by the way, but since we're talking today about Vietnam. Next slide. So here, a lot of data, but I will try to make it in a summarized version. On the left side, you can see Vietnam is still one of the countries with the lowest salary in this part of the world, meaning in kind of Southeast Asia. I think it's number 4 from the bottom. But on the right side, I showed some examples for mid to senior management roles, and you can see the salaries can easily go from, for example, if you talk about sales director, from $8,000 up to 11,000, or a business unit head can earn $13,000. So these are totally different salaries to what we mentioned on the left side in terms of average. So I think this is important to know as an organization when you're investing here, that for high quality, sought after employees, they're definitely quite competitive salaries to be paid. Or maybe for blue-collar workers, construction workers, and so on, you still have very low salaries, and this is considered a little bit a commodity. Therefore, the salaries are still on the lower side. So this is a little bit the trend, because you see a lot of foreign direct investment, a lot of new companies every year coming to Vietnam. That definitely creates certain competition for the best talent in the market too. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here you can see that white-collar salaries, actually, Vietnam is still on the lower side, but not so far off from in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines. So there, of course, in Singapore, it's still much lower, but in comparison to the other neighbors, the salary becomes a little bit more similar, really. Okay, next. Okay. I'd like to speak about this briefly, because it makes quite a bit of a difference in Vietnam what industry you're actually working in. So this shows you how much a certain industry is paying above or below the median or the medium salary paid. And you can see that, let's say, consumer goods industry is roughly paying in the middle, plus 1%. And financial services -3, so that's still roughly the average. But if you're working, let's say, in the high-tech industry, most likely you might earn 11% above the average. Or if you work in the retail industry, you might earn 30 plus below the average salary. So it makes a big difference, because sometimes we hear candidates and telling me, but I earn so much less than one of my friends who has the same position like me. Then I will ask, are you working in the same industry? Because there are massive pay differences between industries. So I give you a moment to see maybe which industry you're in, but you see there are certain trends. So if you're in the oil and mining industry, you might be very lucky, because you might be almost up to 50% higher paid than the average salary pay in Vietnam. Good. Next one. Okay, very briefly, since I understand we have a global audience here, a little bit about expat hiring in Vietnam. We have roughly about 100,000 foreigners / expats in Vietnam. That's considered very small population. As I shared, we have about 100 million people population. So that would be 0.1% of the entire population of foreigners. We see mainly the trend that these positions are either CEO roles, CFO, so senior roles, senior roles, or technical positions where you don't have that talent available in Vietnam yet. For example, this year, last year, we placed quite a number of people into the EV, electric vehicle industry, because you don't have such candidates maybe in that volume readily available. Or ESG plays, CSR in this function, again, was a high demand, but we don't have really senior experienced people yet in Vietnam. So therefore, our clients say, okay, then let's consider as well foreign talents for such positions. In terms of packages, salaries, the average salary, I think it's mentioned on the right side, is about 90,000 US dollar for expats. This can, of course, range from 50,000 US dollar up to 300, 400,000 US dollar. The range is quite wide. And we see a certain trend of localization of senior positions. So many general managers, CFOs are now held by Vietnamese, which is great to see, by locals. I've seen the same trend 10 years ago, 15 years ago in, let's say, in Singapore and Malaysia, and we're seeing this now in Vietnam too. I think this shows you have now as well strong local talents in Vietnam who can take on these senior roles. And one impact has it as well in terms of packages, that you see more and more foreigners actually not necessarily working on expat packages anymore, rather they work on local plus packages. Local plus means they're not getting a full expat package. Expat package means you get housing, transport, schooling. They might just get one of these. They maybe get transport allowance, but no housing, no schooling. That's so-called local packages. That makes the market as well more competitive and more aligned between local and expat packages. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I think I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Just like to share the result of some recent surveys we have done. We wanted to find out whether there's a increase of recruitment demand for the second part of this year. And we did this a couple of months ago, and the outlook was and is still quite positive. We see this for our own organization as well. We see a lot more recruitment volume in H2 than H1. Maybe H1 was affected by topics like tariff, war in Europe, and so on. So you can see 50% of the respondent of our survey said, yes, we definitely will hire, or we plan to hire, we expand our team. 30+% we will maintain. So actually only 13% said they plan to reduce. So which is very positive, which was much stronger than the surveys we did before. Next slide. Very briefly about 2024, because I will share 2025 in a moment too. So we asked 2024, which are the positions in highest demand? And so to slowly go to the tech market, one position in particular was high tech software engineers. These were positions definitely in high demand, and as well sales and marketing positions. Let's go to 2025. Let's go to the next slide to see what were or what are. And here again, maybe the slide is not easy to understand. We combined all the back office positions and some specialized niche positions. So they came up to 25%, but generally the highest demand is again for technical IT positions and sales and marketing positions. So this trend continues to be the same as 2024. In back office, we combined HR, finance, procurement, all of them together. But actually the highest demand we still see for technical positions and sales and marketing positions. Let's go to the next slide. And we asked as well, which are the most challenging positions? And again, this is related to our topic today. And maybe not only by coincidence, because we have the highest demand for these positions. These as well seem to be the most challenging to fill. And I think one of the main reasons after asking our clients is because there's a lot more demand than maybe supply is available. Or you need to approach passive candidates, actively seeking candidates are not enough, and maybe the quality not always there. So you really need to approach passive candidates who are not actually looking right now, and try to convince them to join you. And that makes it much more challenging. And the color code means here, the darker the color, the more challenging. So senior positions, mid-level positions seem to be more challenging because maybe expectations are higher towards these positions than finding more junior or entry-level candidates. Let's go to the, I think, last slide, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, perfect. So nicely to hand over to my peer, the next guest speaker. We asked as well, which are the top 3 industry with highest recruitment demand. So we compared all the industry and we figured out the ones who have clearly more than 50, because 50 was the average, 60, 70, 80% of we are recruiting right now, were electronics industry, chemical industry, and the tech industry. So I think that shows as well that today's topic is very relevant because it's one of the hottest markets we have right now out there. So thank you so much for listening, and look forward to the later on panel discussion and so on. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much, Andre, for your sharing. Yeah, and we can see that so Vietnam is considered as the FDI magnet. I really like your sharing about this point. And the quality senior candidates is not enough right now, and we also try to find the best fit candidate for your company. And we can see Vietnam been attract a lot of the massive investment from some giants around the world, and the hiring boom in the chemicals or electronics or IT, and we can see that IT always on the top. And Vietnam is not just hoping to the tech hub anymore. The fundamentals are in place, and we have the talent supply, their skill, and to support the real and the strong sustainable growth, right? So I think we should go to our speaker to explore about this point. So Hiếu, from your work as the technical leader for global IT project, so where are you seeing now in the tech talent market, and what is standing out to you at the moment?
Thank you, Hazel. So for my point of view, I can say that there's a lot of demands requiring to hire expertise engineers from other companies with Vietnamese engineer. So let me zoom out for a moment and share what I'm really seeing when companies try to build engineering teams in Vietnam. So in my experience, yeah, can you start a slide? So in my experience, there are two sides of the story. On one side, you have global teams, and on the other side, you have local teams. The challenge are different, but the impact are equally serious. And the interesting is both sides are often frustrated for exactly the same reasons. They feel like they are doing a lot, but not really getting the results they want. For a global size, which are companies without local entities in Vietnam, the first big barrier is actually very simple: the time zones and the communications. We have all seen this movie, right? Recruiters and hiring managers are sitting in different time zones. Interviewers are being coordinated across continents, and feedback is, let's say, not exactly real time. What happens then? You start to see what I call ghosting moments. It's not that the candidates suddenly don't care anymore. It's not that they change their mind overnight, and it's just that the momentum has been break. So no one gets back to them at the right times, and there's no clear next steps, and the process it just goes quiet. From the candidate's point of view, they are thinking, if the hiring process is already slow and confusing, what will it be to working there? And without someone located in local HR to send quick updates, to follow up on WhatsApp or Zalo, which is the most popular omnichannel in Vietnam, and to gently push hiring managers internally, credibility dropped very fast in Vietnam. Good candidates here are used to quick replies, and they are often juggling 2 or 3 conversations at once. So if you are slow, they don't send any angry emails. They just don't write a long complaint. They just move on. So the second big challenge for global teams is limited access to local talent data. On paper, it looked like this. We are posting a role. We got 100 CVs. So the problem can't be the pipeline, right? But in reality, most international teams don't have a strong access to verify Vietnamese tech database, active communities like VietAI, TopDev, DevCon, or create networks of passive candidates, just like Andrew said, who aren't actively applying, but will be open for right positions. So yes, the inbox, it looks full, but the signal inside that noise is low. You might see a lot of applications, but usually around 10 to 50% actually meet your technical bar or your communication standards. So the team is busy, everyone is working, but the calendar is full of interviews, but a huge amount of time is spent on screening, testing, and rejecting, instead of having a focused, high-quality conversations with the right people from the beginning. So move on to the third challenge for global teams is a weak employer presence and missing visible company culture. This one is subtle, but it's powerful. Even when a strong global brand can feel almost invisible in Vietnam, if there's no local presence and real no face in Vietnam. On LinkedIn, the brand can look impressive, but in day-to-day life, Vietnamese engineers are asking, who do I actually work with, and who is my manager, and who is in the office with me? Vietnamese engineers are quite selective. They don't just look at salary and tech stack. They look at whether they can trust the company, what their growth path will look like, how leaders behave, and whether the culture truly match their value. And the deeper the problems isn't just only visibility, it's that there's no living, breathing company cultures for them to actually experience. When teams are full remote or fully outsourced, daily interaction disappear, the small human moment disappear, and the coffee chats, the jokes, and whiteboard sessions, there's no more. So relationships with peers get weaker, and there's a very little exposure to leaderships. In that environment, people struggle to feel like they are part of something bigger than just tickets, sprints, and deadlines. This is especially true in Vietnam, where we really care about the community, belonging, and shared routines. Without a local hub for local entities, companies often unintentionally create an environment where talents feel disconnected. And disconnected teams rarely stay long and rarely perform at their best. So now let's flip to the local side. So next slide, please, Hazel. So for local side, which means for existing FDI companies in Vietnam, we have local teams, of course, local HR, local leaders, but they also face some very real, very human challenge. The first one is limited HR capabilities. In many companies, the HR team is quite small. Sometimes it's one person doing everything: recruitment, payroll, contracts, onboarding, events. They are heroes, honestly, but they are overloaded. They spend most of their times on day-to-day operations and admin work. And because of that, they really don't have the time and the space for thinking about the long-term talent strategy. So what happened? Sourcing is inconsistent. Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's quiet. Screening quality is up and down, depending on who is free that week. And there's a heavy reliance on inbound channel. Basically, just waiting for people to apply. So the business might have very ambitious hiring targets, but the engine behind those targets isn't strong enough to deliver results. The second challenge for local teams is rigid global processes. A lot of companies try to copy and paste a global hiring framework into Vietnam without adapting. On paper, the process looks structured, but in reality, it feels heavy. With slow feedback, late night interviews just to match another time zone, 3, 4, sometimes 5-hour interviews, plus long technical tests. Now imagine you are a senior engineer, you already have a full-time job, you have a family, and you're being asked to call at 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. and then do 3-hour assignments. It's really hard. So what would you do? From the candidate's point of view, it feels tiring, and sometimes it's a bit disrespectful at the time. So what did they do? They quietly drop out of the interview. The pipeline doesn't fail at the offer stage. It starts leaking at the middle of the process, long before the offer even discussed. And moving on to the final challenge is underutilizing passive talent. This one is huge. More than 60% of Vietnam top engineers are passive candidates. They are not updating their CV regularly, and they are not applying on every job post. They are just working, delivering, and committing to their company. But they are open to something better. But if it comes through a trusted channel, you reach these people through create network, trust communities, and personal referrals. So if you don't have access to those networks, and even if your brand is globally famous, you can still end up being with empty pipeline. And That's where a lot of companies feel stuck. We are good companies. We pay well. Why is nobody applying? And the answer is often the right people don't see you, and the people who do see you are not really the ones that you really want to hire. So let's bring everything together. So when you put all this together, the global challenge, the local challenge, and a very clear pattern appears. Hiring and scaling engineer teams in Vietnam requires much more posting jobs for global processes. In our experience, success really came down to 3 core pillars. Next slide, please. Oh, go back. Sorry. So just come down to 3 core pillars: speed, localizations, and deep market insight. Let me walk you through one by one. The first one is pillar number 1 is speed. The Vietnamese tech talent market move really fast. Top candidates often have 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 options on table at the same time. If the feedback is slow, and if the interview slots are hard to coordinate, and if decision drags for weeks, you lose them. Not because they don't like your company, not because your product isn't interesting, just simple because someone else move faster. Speed doesn't mean chaotic, but it means clear and tight processes. Pillar number 2 is localizations. Global frameworks do not automatically work in Vietnam. They are a good starting point, but they need to be tuned like you tune a product for a new market. You have to adapt to local cultures, local expectations, and local communication styles. Vietnamese engineers care about trust, real growth opportunities, and behavior of the leaderships. If your hiring process doesn't answer those questions, then you lose good people along the way. Even if your brand is strong and your salary is competitive. So and moving on to the pillar number 3 is deep market insight. The best talent is not always the person who click apply. That's obvious. More than 60% of top engineers are passive, just like I said previously. To reach them, you need several ways, and you need to know where they are, what they care about, and how to approach them in a way that feel genuine, not transactions. Without that deep local insight and access, even a very strong global brand could struggle to find a senior role or niche role. So companies that get these 3 pillars right, speed, localizations, and deep market insights, can shorten the hiring cycle, improve conversation rates at every stage, and build engineering teams that are high performing, engaged, and truly scalable. And the good news is you don't have to figure it out alone. You can partner with a trusted RPO or a provider, and you can build your own structured Vietnam fit hiring framework. In the end, this is a mix of speed, local insight, and strategic executions. Yeah, so that's my thought on the Vietnamese market, on hiring and acquiring in Vietnam. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much,
And
Angel, for your sharing. And yeah, and I can see that you really hit on the core challenges of hiring in Vietnam, and especially when the client wants to balance between the speed and the quality. And when we, from our experience working with client, I can see the same pattern, like the candidate, like the company, the client, they are like of their candidate database, and also there are no footprint in Vietnam also, and yeah, and even harder when they depends on whether they have their entity in Vietnam or they want to hire remote team. So, and I think that I want to bring in Andre perspective. So Andre, can you share your thought about this session And when you work with global companies, do you see that they often get wrong when trying to hire middle to senior talent in Vietnam?
Yeah, thanks, Hazel, for the question. I think I fully agree with what you just shared with us. I would say it in that way. Global companies don't know what they don't know. So meaning that in tendency they will ask the right questions, they will find the right partners to avoid these mistakes. So if they don't do, then obviously there's a high chance for certain mistakes. Maybe it could be that they want to save cost, they might not have the budget, whatever the reasons are. But definitely having that local expertise will help you to avoid certain mistakes. So if you ask me what are the common ones, honestly, it really depends. I think a lot of our clients can avoid as long as they work very closely together with any of either you guys, us, whoever. If they work with experts, local experts, we can advise them, we can share with them that maybe certain global processes they have need to be adjusted. Maybe certain expectations might have to be a little bit adjusted. So there are certain things. So you can keep maybe certain global standards, but you need to maybe apply them to a localized version that will help you to avoid most of the mistakes. But yeah, if you want to, as a global company, which I think most of our clients don't do, but if you try this by yourself and you don't have the local expertise yet, then exactly what you shared, you might face quite a number of obstacles, and you most likely will make a number of mistakes. Like speed is one way how you can lose a lot of candidates, since an Asian market is much more fast-paced than a lot of other countries in the world. So therefore, there are a number of lessons learned, but I think you summarized this very well, so I don't like to summarize what he said, but basically my advice is work with partners, local strong partners, and that will help you to avoid, even for senior recruitment, it's the same as mid or junior level. These are normally the best ways to avoid a number of mistakes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Andre. So yeah, this means that if you want to enter in Vietnam, it's better when you go with a trusted partner, and they will help you to maybe go faster and hire the right talent you need for your company. Yeah. Yeah, okay. And right now we have just looked at the challenges the international company often face here, and no matter how they are set up for their team, but knowing the challenges is not a half of the battle. And so to really win, and you need a strategy to fit the reality of Vietnam market. So right now I could share with you guys the roadmap, the practical roadmap with 5 critical steps to help you hire the tech talent effectively in Vietnam. So you can see here we have 5 steps with step 1, understand right talent really means, the definition of right talent, and I will show the details in the next slide. The step 2 about the data-driven sourcing strategy. You have to do a strategy before you start hiring. And step 3, define your interview process. And next one, evaluate both skill and mindset, not just focused on technical skill. And the last one, onboarding with a focus on closing and retaining talent. So you can see here, right talent really means, and before you get hiring, you have to clear. You have to define the right talent. And when we work with a lot of international companies, and we try to define fit across layer, And the right talent will have 4 layers like the technical knowledge, the business, the culture, and the language. And you can see here the technical related to the core stack, the experience depth, the business about their domain knowledge, the skill readiness, and the culture fit like the collaboration, the working style, the adaptability, and the mindset. And the language is very important. This is the tone, the way to communicate with the other people in your company. So, based on 4 layers, we will build a role scorecard with 3 dimensions, like must have, what is must have qualification, what is nice to have, and any red flag for this position. And also you have to find the right talent, and the right talent try to align with your business roadmap and your scaling journey in the next 6 and 12 months. Not focused on not just 1 or 2 months. Yeah, and I think I will give you an example for right talent, the definition, why you should define the right talent. You can see here we have the requirement for QA manual role, and with the 4 hiring criteria: technical skill, domain knowledge, and culture fit and communication. But in with FDI company, they are expect from their candidate. I think there is a huge difference of expectation from FDI companies and local Vietnamese company expectation. And with QA manual role, in FDI company, they also expect the candidate have IT background. They have to learn information technology in their university, know about their understand of system design, architecture, and they also have experience interact with the backend with the database. I think there's a lot of experience related to technical. But with the local Vietnamese company, when we work with some Vietnamese company, they just need a candidate who have the understand of basic testing cycle. Yeah, and maybe they can join some testing boot camp or testing course is okay, and they know IT background. And this is the different about the expectation from related to the technical skill from 2 kind of companies. And the domain knowledge, I think this is the optional. And the culture fit, and with FDI company, they always expect the candidate can work independently, and the candidate have to be more active in problem solving, communicate with other team members, and also have an ownership mindset. But with some Vietnamese company, they just need a person, a candidate can do the task-based execution and work best with clear guidance and assignment. And the communication, and with FDI, we also know that they have to good at English or Japanese if you work with Japanese company, and you have to good at speaking and writing as well as. But when you work with Vietnamese company, they just need their basic English, like reading or writing. You can it's okay when you just understand and write the document well. Yeah, and so that I want to show that you can see the huge difference, the same role but the huge difference from expectation from 2 kind of companies. So that before we start hiring, we have to define a clear definition of right talent for each job vacancy you are hiring. And the step 2, to build a data-driven sourcing strategy, and we have to do map candidate pool by city, by community, community and company type. I want to clarify more about company type. For example, you hire some candidates, some senior developer for FDI from US with their logistic domain, maybe you should source the candidate from other FDI from US. Yeah, I think because they are the same working style, and it is easier for the candidate when they jump into the new environment, and they there are no much difference. And also, and before and beside mapping candidate pool, you have to use the multi-channel sourcing mix with inbound, outbound, and referral, because in Vietnam, the top engineer really applied to job posts, and they respond to the relevance to the trusted network. That's why we have to focus on outbound and referral, not focus on inbound. And next one, you have to define your interview process. Yeah, and interview process, it is very important. And when you start hiring any position, you have to inform to the candidate, to the HR team, to get know well about the interview process. And we need to build a clear and structured interview flow to define the timeline, the interview stage, and set the time to hire targets. And also, you have to decide the number of CVs to screen or route required. And you can see here we will share the key action to speed up your hiring, and always to keep time to hire under 2 weeks for middle to senior roles, and try to simplify steps, remove redundant route, and use concise and realistic technical assessment like homework assignment or live coding if needed. And also, you have to remain transparent communication and update candidates every 1 to 3 days. And also, our HR team, need to track conversion metrics from screening to interview to offer. Yeah, so I will show you when we work with a lot of international companies, and we will try to advise them to adjust their hiring process. You can see here the typical international hiring process, maybe more than with minimum 3 rounds. And but in some client country, it is the standard and it's comfortable when they do 3 or 4 or 5 rounds in their interview process. But in Vietnam, you know, we are the fast market, and the top engineer, they won't wait. And a lot of companies, and HR approach them to introduce their job. So that's the reason why we have to shorten their process. And we think that this is a case study, and before a client want to do with the 4 step meetup and interview, round 1 meetup and introduction call. The next one, homework assignment. The third one, technical round, and the last one, salary negotiation. But we adjust and we redesign the interview process with 3 rounds. First one, meeting and technical interview with 2 sessions in 1 interview. And the next one, practical homework. Yeah, just within 2 or 3 days for candidate, and they work and they will submit their assignment before we do the next round. And the last one, culture fit and salary discussion. And I think that is quite reasonable and works for a lot of company when they want to hire the senior tech talent. And the step 4, evaluate both skill and mindset. And we think that we just focus on skill, just evaluate the candidates based on their technical skill. You should consider about their mindset, and we will define the framework with the 3 sections. The first one, can do, related to technical skill, domain problem solving to deliver the immediate value for your company. The will do mindset is about the motivation, the ownership, the curiosities, and this will drive retention and the long-term commitment. And the fit to do is about the culture, the collaboration, the adaptability, and this will ensure the long-term alignment between the candidate and the company. And we will use some assessment tool to define and to assess and evaluate the candidate, like the technical test, the live project discussion, or the soft skill probing, or some. And you also have to set up some conversation to share their working style with the candidate, and they will be aware of how they will jump into if they join your company. And the last one, onboarding and closing and retaining. And we should say that onboarding is you don't stop at the offer letter. You have to closing, like try to personalize closing, and you will set up a call of a final call on the quick meeting between the senior or the director with the candidate to show their respect, and they really want this candidate join their team. And the second one, you have to give the candidate their offer clarity, clear information about compensation, growth path, the mentorship structure, and also give them smooth onboarding from day 1 to 60, from 30 or 60 days, like assign the mentor, conduct weekly check-ins, or sign up quickly. And we think that, and if you want to keep their candidate for a long-term commitment, you have to invest in career roadmap, set the learning budget and certifications, sponsorship for them, and also recognition of any of the candidates, the employees, milestone, and any achievement. And so this is the 5 steps we always do when we hiring the tech talent for client. And as the Hiếu and Andre shared before, and it's better when an international company with their entity in Vietnam collaborate with trusted engineer, about the HR firm or the RPO agency, and I think this is the good way help them can faster their hiring. And yeah, I think that. And the tech, yeah, I think that is the move. I will move to some question to explore more about our speaker perspective. So Andre, which step do companies most often struggle with, and why, in your experience working with the global companies? We have 5 steps, and which one they are most often struggle with?
Thanks, Hazel, for the question, and thanks for your presentation, your sharing. My cheeky answer for a start would be with most likely all 5 steps, but you asked me maybe most often, so I would most likely answer based on my experience, maybe with the first 2, meaning the sourcing, and as well especially do data-driven sourcing. I think it's not so easy to have data in Vietnam and have valid data. So our global clients or clients in general ask us, can you give me some market information? Can you provide market intel? So I think that's what global companies struggle with. And as well, then I call it maybe make an informed decision. Meaning the second part is who is now, as you called it, the right candidate. It's a mixture of So they repeat it, they don't know what they don't know. So meaning they cannot fully assess whether the candidate is a good match, because if they're new to Vietnam, they have no data, no experience to compare. If they interview 5 candidates for a role, they might know who's the best out of 5, but they might still not know, is this a strong candidate comparison to the market? So these are difficult decisions for them to make. So long story short, the other ones are important too. Companies truly struggle with retention and so on. So all your 5 valid points are very valid. But I believe the most challenging part is first identifying strong talents and then make a decision which one to get on board. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your sharing. And we also know that source is very important. And if you are a newbie in our market, there's no just history and information about the database sources. Yeah, and yeah, I can see that. Yeah, thank you so much for your perspective. And I think that maybe we move to the session 3. Yeah, so now for our final session today, and we are shifting to a topic that every global company's the scaling team in Vietnam eventually face, the cross-cultural collaboration. Yeah, so as small Western companies, especially from US or UK, and expand their engineering team here, and one thing become clear, and technical ability gets you start, but the cultural alignment is what determines long-term performance. And so in this closing session, and we will explore and what is really takes to build team where Vietnam engineer and global stakeholder work seamlessly together. And from our work with 100 clients, and we have seen 3 major points come up again and again. The first one, the different expectation around ownership and communication. And we also know that Western teams value their direct communication and the proactive escalation. But in Vietnam engineering team, they are collaborate and thoughtful, and but sometimes overly cautious to share their point and their perspective. And the second one is the difference in speed and decision-making styles. And US and UK teams expect fast iteration and candid feedback, but local teams take more time to ensure the accuracy and the alignment. Yeah, and I can see the difference between 2 cultures. And the third one, to building a shared culture in hybrid and remote setups, especially when engineers seldom interact directly with their product owners. So we want to break this down with practical and real-world perspective from our 2 speakers. So about the question 1, I think I will start with Hill. From your experience working with a lot of global clients and also lead some Vietnamese engineering team, and where do you see the biggest gap and more importantly, how we can do to close those gaps effectively?
To answer the questions, first I will talk a little bit about the culture differences and performance expectations from a foreign company and a Vietnam company, which will be related to software engineer in foreign countries and in Vietnam. So what I noticed is that before I was working in Europe, the company is really focused on the performance of the employees, and also they tends to give 360-degree feedbacks which is related to peer-to-peer. On the other hand, in Vietnam, we are having a traditional pipeline, like from managers to the teams, but there's a quite differences. In Europe, they tend to leave the developers to be really independent and stay on their own task and stuff. But in Vietnam, we tend to be more collaborations. We tend to spend a lot of hours together to do like working together on a single task to help each other if it's a real complex. Also, what I noticed is that in Western style, everyone is disconnected. Feel like they are disconnected to each other. But Vietnamese engineer, they are creating bonds together when they are at their work. So I think that is one of the biggest gap between the culture and how to prevent and to make it better. I think that if you are a foreign company who want to hire the teams of Vietnamese engineer, then you should have someone who are a team leader in Vietnam to help them to bonding with all the people, with other engineers, and even have a coffee chat or share together with the work. So I think it will help a lot when you want to build a strong teams in Vietnam and to close the culture and performance and to close the cultural gap. Yeah. So that's what I think. So what about you, Andre? What do you think about that?
Well, I honestly think it's not an easy topic, but that's maybe why we have this question here. From a Western perspective, I always think we should have so-called SMART goals when we do performance reviews. So I've seen in the past that some goals are very generic. And when you do an annual review, this can lead to some frictions because people have different opinions. So make the goals to a certain extent at least measurable, clear, and so on. So have SMART goals. But my biggest takeaway and learning is the annual review is not most of the times for a learning purpose or giving feedback. It's in Vietnam there to kind of decide about your annual bonus, your salary increment, and whether you potentially can get promoted. So it has not always the most positive feel. So what I learned as a leader, if I want to have an impact on my team, I need to give feedback before in a more informal one-on-one conversation. And my communication style should be not too European, not too direct, because I want the other side to listen and to have some learnings. If it's a positive feedback, you should give positive feedback too. It's easier. If it's let's say a constructive feedback, which I've observed that the person could improve this area, I might package it. Package meaning we call it maybe a sandwich feedback. I will highlight something positive, then I come to the main point, which I want the person to reflect and potentially improve, and then end it off with something positive. I think some people would call it sugar coating, but as a leader, I think you need to adjust to a market. I'm German, so as a German, we are very direct, but I noticed if I give very direct feedback to a Vietnamese employee, it might not, in most cases, it will not work. Since, as you mentioned, we have different communication style. One is direct, one is indirect. Direct means we have low context. We just go directly I call it not for the kill, but for our message. Indirect is you need to fully understand the entire context. And I think some Europeans are not well trained in that. So therefore, so long story short, adjust to a little bit more indirect, softened approach and have informal feedback session. Maybe, I know it's time consuming, but if you can do 2 or 3 per year would be great, because the annual performance review is really not, as the word says, about performance. It's more about annual bonus, potential promotion, and so on. So if you really want your employees to learn, give immediate feedback whenever you saw something positive or not so positive. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your sharing, Andre and Hugh. Yeah, I think this is really informative, and we can see a lot of the biggest the gaps and the difference between the two cultures about the way we give the feedback, the communication style, and yeah, a lot of things. And when we want to have to mix and to combine and to find the neutral way to work with two companies from like two cultures, something like that, and two countries. Yeah, and I think that that is all for the first question, and I want to move to the second question. Yeah, and a lot of candidates ask us, and what does it take for Vietnamese engineer to truly succeed in a global startup and global companies? And for your view, and what habits and mindsets have Vietnamese engineer applied when they are work directly with US, Europe or Japan-based teams? So I think I want to listen your perspective, Andre.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and maybe I'll answer first Vietnamese employees, which I think is very similar to Vietnamese engineers, and I have given this feedback in several panel discussion and presentation before, is stay to your roots, meaning when you're a Vietnamese employee, be a Vietnamese. I would never, say, look, since you work in a global company, now you need to become American. But now comes the but you need to understand the culture you are working in. So if you work in a, let's say, Western context, you need to understand this a little bit. If you work in a Japanese or Korean company, you would need to understand the culture, and you need to respect it. So if you're in a work, let's say you work in a European or American culture, to a certain extent, it's expected from you to speak up, to share your opinion. Don't always keep quiet, because if you don't bring up your own suggestions and so on, you will not be most likely recognized for your contributions. Don't hope that people will recognize you, but you are very quiet. I know in culturally, some people would say Vietnamese, so especially engineers, might be a bit shy. I think it's more Vietnamese feel more comfortable in a group as an individual. But you have to learn, if you like to succeed in a global company, you need to voice out your opinion, or you need to come up with new suggestions. If you face a problem, go to your leader and say, hey, I have this problem, but my suggestion is this. I'm not sure this is the right, but I at least suggest something. Don't just go to your leader and say, I have this problem. Please tell me what I should do. So there are some differences. Take on a more proactive approach. Be a little more outspoken if you can, because this is what a little more in Western culture is about. But what I said, don't totally become, a German, because I think as a global company being in Vietnam, for example, you want to have your local expertise too. So I know it's quite a bit what organization might be asking for, but they're basically looking for the best of both worlds. You can be the advocate for the Vietnamese culture, how to succeed in Vietnam, but you can bridge to be able to work in a global company. So you can speak both languages. Then I'm sure you can be very successful in a global company. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your sharing. And maybe we have to learn about the culture of your company that you are working in, but you have to also keep their the culture traditional as well as. Okay, thank you so much. And I think that I will move to the question 3.
You might be the expert in this.
Yeah, and I think this question I want to ask Hiếu. So based on your experience, what are the most effective ways to build an unified and inclusive culture when your team is distributed across geographies or locations?
So to answer these questions, I think in order to create a structured teams and a team that can perform well, firstly you need to have an entities. You have the local entities, or it'll be the best if you have the local entities. Otherwise, if you cannot do the local entities to create the company in Vietnam, then you should create a structured teams with the help of an RPO like Malnet or Talentnet to help you to acquire a good candidate and speed up the process, because speed is the most important thing in this area. Also, one insight for me is that just like I said, you should have someone who dedicated leaders in the teams and who live in Vietnam. That's gonna be the best. So yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we should focus on the localization point, like a local entity or a PM in the local, use the our local language. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so we have covered a lot today, from the Vietnam tech talent landscape to practical playbooks for international company want to hire engineering team in Vietnam. And so right now let's open the floor for a few audience questions. So now I will turn it over to you, the audience. And so what is your mind, and it's perfect time to share your question that tie directly to your business, and you can drop them in the box chat, and raise your hand if you want to jump into our live. And our team will keep an eye on everything. We'll bring a few questions of your audience to straight to our speaker today. So if you have any question and if you have any concern, want to know more about the Vietnam tech talent, or if you want to, if you have plan to set up entity in Vietnam, yeah, please share with us, and we share with you the perspective and the experience we did with a lot of clients. So I have one question. I hear you talk about the onboarding and keeping engineer engaged, but honestly, something is completely do with good intention just really work in Vietnam from a perspective on retention approach. People things have actually as well with engineer, and I think this one is about the retention approach we can do with the to keep the engineer engaged with our company. Yeah, and I also question from, and I can see someone raised their hand. So I don't know, in Notion. Yeah, can you turn on?
Yes.
Yeah, and turn on
Hi.
your mic and share your
I
question.
should turn on my camera. Hi. I don't know. Good evening from this part of the world. I'm in Malaysia. Yeah, so I saw it on LinkedIn, so I decided to, come in and, gain the knowledge. Thank you so much for all you've shared. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot here. Yeah, so my ask is for IT people. Like, I'm a software engineer. I'm a Java developer, and I work in a bank here in Malaysia. So, and I heard one of the speakers talking about, Vietnam also moving into payment systems. So it's something that interests me too, and I would want to come over there and also learn the culture, work there, and get the experience. What would be your advice to, people like us who want to migrate there? Like, what ad platform would you suggest we could, get verified recruiters who would help us? I know LinkedIn is there, right? It's okay to, filter write some search on LinkedIn and filter find recruiters. But, if there are recommended agencies or platform or companies, platform you can advise us to go to and find these jobs that gives us ability or that provide relocation support or sponsorship. Yeah, it will be very helpful.
Yeah, so to Andre, what about your thought about this question? I think thank you so much for your question first. And so I think I will hand over this question to Andre. So yeah, can you share your thought and your perspective, and when give our audience the question, your answer?
Innocent, if I understood your question correctly, you were saying what platforms, for example, can be used in Vietnam to look for tech talents? Am I right?
Yeah.
Did I?
Tech talents, like platform that and companies that provide sponsorship and location support for global tech talent.
That provides relocation
Support, yeah.
support. Got it. Okay, for relocation support, I think you can after the session, if you like, to speak to some of the speakers you have seen here. I think we might be able to look into that, because we work with other global tech companies who maybe have, for example, already offices in Malaysia, but they're now planning to move some of these talents to Vietnam. So there are different ways how this can be done. I think you can speak within you or with myself after that. For example, if you like to recruit in Vietnam itself, I think that was mentioned in a beginning that the Vietnamese market is a little bit different to maybe some other global markets. So for tech talent, I think you can add on a little bit, but for example, in LinkedIn is normally not necessarily the go-to tool. Yes, you can find some talent there, but if you really want to find some top-notch passive candidates, you have to go through other ways. You will have to go through a lot of referral, active approaching, and then maybe certain partners have built certain databases themselves. So if you rely on I call it platforms, there, for example, surely in Vietnam alone, I think that will not get you the candidates you are looking for, or at least not strong enough quality and quantity you're looking for. But yes, they are out. I'm sure we can share with you the platforms you can use, but we have used them ourselves, and I think they will not be sufficient to find as well. I think you shared with you, for example, the approach that will not be sufficient alone. A platform alone driven approach will not find you all the talents, but we can share the platforms you can use. One is JobsDB, then you can use a different one, which is more tech driven. There's one or two local Vietnamese. We can write down the names for you. You can use them. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you look about talent transfer, you can work with you, or you can work with me, or you can work with Hazel. We can help you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your Andre. I want to add more because in Vietnam the top talent they really respond if they receive the new brand, and they really just and on the network. And this why the reason we want to, if you want to enter Vietnam, want to hire Vietnamese engineer, you should collaborate with the local HR agency or any local companies here, and we will help you to fasten your hiring process and to introduce the top talent and with the best fit qualification with your requirement. And I think this is the first way to build up your team in Vietnam. And because there's some platform like Top CV or Vietnam work just for the fresher or junior level. There's not too much the senior level there. Yeah.
So I saw there's a questions from David Jones in the chat.
Yeah, I saw we can see there are still there are a lot of great questions coming in our box chat, but we are approaching the end of our time today, and we will address them after the event and in the follow-up summary. So yeah, thank you so much for giving us the question and also the concerns about the tech talent. And I can see that about the engagement, the retention, and the way to preparation before building tech team in Vietnam, and also the salary benchmark. We will share the all information in the follow-up summary, and you can see the details there. And so let me just recap what we have been for today. And the first one with Andre would share with us the Vietnamese landscape tech talent, the big picture, and you can see a lot of information about the workforce, the rapid growth in the tech role, and also their digital transformation and AI adoption in Vietnam. And secondly, we explore the realities in hiring in Vietnam, unpack what we should and what we shouldn't when for the global companies building and scaling local engineering teams in Vietnam. And finally, and from our experience, I shared with you guys an actionable roadmap with 5 steps to recruiting and scaling tech team. Tech talent effectively in Vietnam, a fast market based on our practical lesson working with the investor and clients. And what's standing out from today's session is the Vietnam is the emerging as the strategic partner for tech innovation and growth, where business can access the depth, talent, and build competitive advantage and scale impactful teams here in Vietnam. And so on behalf of our team, thank you so much for joining us today, and huge thanks again to our speaker, Andre and Hill, and for sharp insights and valuable sharing about the strategy and also the hands-on experience. Yeah, we really appreciate your sharing. And I think after everything we discussed today, and what is one thought and one message you guys want to leave to the audience, and as we close our session. So Hiếu, one thing you want to share before we close?
Okay, so didn't expect to be here at the first place, but it was fortunate to be at this meeting, and hopefully that throughout the meetings everyone can get a bit of knowledge about what is happening in Vietnam and what it should be and shouldn't do if you are companies looking toward opportunities in Vietnam and creating your own teams. So yeah, reach out to RPO agencies if you are looking to build a real structured teams and make a good profit out of it. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Andre, what is one thing you want to talk with our audience?
First of all, yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Always enjoy, especially the panel discussions. I know it's almost 6 p.m., but I easily could go on for another 30 minutes if you like. Don't worry, I really enjoy panel discussions. And I saw just Yu's answer to, I think, to the one of the questions. I think it's a really good answer, and this shows as well that I believe we could answer some of the tricky questions, give some market insights. So my final sentence is, I believe you could see Vietnam's future very, very bright. We have a lot of young, very capable talents here. Surely we have some challenges, but we can easily overcome them together. So thank you so much for having me. And yeah, let's keep this up.
Thank you so much.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think that is so. Thank you for beautiful closing thoughts from you guys, Yole and Andre. And we think we that you will give a lot to our audience, and we can reflect on and have more to act upon in the near future. If you want to like build any engineering team in Vietnam or have plan for of your business in Vietnam. And so before we wrap up, a quick note for everyone here, and you will receive a follow-up email with full recording and today's slide deck and small digital gift set from LTS and Manet. And as our way to say thank you for spending your time with us today. And so don't forget to check your email after our webinar. And so remember, this is just the beginning, and the next episode is our Build in Vietnam webinar series is coming up next week, and we will be diving into another key topic, shaping the country's tech future. So thank you so much, and for your time, and stay tuned until then, and take care, and see you again. Hope to see you again. Thank you so much, Andre and Hioli, for your valuable sharing, and thank you so much for our audience. Stay until now with us.
Yes, still with us. That's great. Yeah, thank you. And
Thank you, everyone.
connect with me on LinkedIn if you like. Always happy to build further our network. And thanks again, Hazel, for having us. And well done, you. Good talking. And we should catch up.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you and
Bye.
goodbye.